Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, here's the thing. I think that the economic system right now, I think the wheels are starting to come off. Really. And this whole thing with the repo market and the purchases by the Fed, the injection of money, $75 billion a day. A day? 10 days, that's 750 billion. That's like, what is that, about 12 days per trillion? So in a month, it's like $2.5 trillion a month. To do 2 months, that'd be like $5 trillion and change, and $10 trillion in 4 months. What the heck's going on, guys? That's a lot, more than a lot of money. That's off the scale. Now, one of the things I want you guys to consider is the markets right now, they're loving it. They're loving it. They love it just like pancakes love being poured over with pancake syrup. Markets are loving it, but they're getting used to it really fast. And this is the way with the markets. They get liquidity, even if it's for only 2 days. On the third day, they're used to it, and they've priced it all in for it to continue. It's the world we live in now. So they're getting $75 billion a day, and they're lapping it up. Oh, they're loving it. You know? What about when it ends? Because they said they're going to end it on the 10th of October. Now, my big thing is I don't think they can end it. I think the wheels are coming off now. And I think if they end it, it's going to rattle other parts of the market. To the extent where even if they do end it, they'll have to prop in someplace else if they stop it. So I think it might be open-ended. $75 billion a day. How much would that be in a year? Let's see, 365 times 75 billion. I mean, this is getting to be to the point of ridiculous now at this point. But that's not what I come to talk about tonight. You know, I really love what I'm doing. Spend 4 hours a day in research in the financial system. I feel like a scientist who's studying a petri dish with a microscope. And the financial system is that petri dish, and inside there, it's like an organism, like some type of amoeba or something. You know, this is the financial system, and I just love what I'm doing here, studying it, because it is evolving. Day to day, it's evolving and changing. And it's the most complex organism. I love detailing it. I love studying it. And I'm very interested in what's going to happen within it every single day. And I'm making a record. All the way through every day, I'm here making a record of this slow motion collapse. That's what's going on. You know? Anyway, let's get right into it. And what I really come to meet, or what I'm really come to discuss here. And what that is on this chart I've drawn here. Got it behind me. You can see on one side you got these little round black circles. Some of them are microscopically small, some are a little bit bigger. And on the other side of the chart, you've got these big yellow circles. Well, these are money pots or money bags. Okay, that's what they represent. Now, the black money bags are tiny little money bags. They don't got much money in them, just a little bit. But there's lots of them. There's a lot more of them than the big money bags. Those are the money bags of the people. Common, ordinary people like us, you know. Those are our money bags. They're small, tiny, but there's many, many, many of them. So when you take them all into consideration, they make up a very large pot of money. On the other side of this, we got the 1%ers. We've got the rich mucky mucks. We've got the bankers. We've got all of the intellectuals. We've got all the people out there who are in the money pot and on the receiving end of the money from this system. Whenever the Fed does an injection of money, it doesn't come to the little tiny money pots on our side. It goes into these big money pots, right? Now, what's going to happen? When they switch over to what I've been hearing through the grapevine is 5% negative interest rate policy. In other words, they're planning on actually going 5% to the negative. Zero interest rate all the way down to 5%. Suddenly, this whole financial system that we all think we understand becomes completely understandable. Everything becomes turned upside down on its head. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to try to understand it. Not just me. I'm trying to understand it. It's so bizarre. It's so weird. It's so outlandish. It's so upside down that I don't really completely understand it yet. And so I want to learn how it works with you guys. So I drew this chart to try to actually, even as I'm going along here, I'm figuring it out myself. It's so bizarre, it's hard to figure out. And so, maybe I'm going to make a mistake here and there, you know? But you guys bear with me, and if you see my mistakes, point them out to me. I really want to know what my mistakes are. But the way I see it is, when they get that interest rate policy down to negative 5%, then all of these pots on our side over here, all the little black pots of money, maybe 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000 in the bank, or even $100 in the bank, depending on the size of these little black pots. There's thousands of them. That they're going to charge us 5% every year we hold our money in the bank. Am I got that right? Because it's negative 5% interest rate policy. So they're going to charge 5%. Basically, so you hold your money in the bank a year with 5% below zero interest rate policy, they charge you 5% off your money. That's all the black pots. That's the savings. But what about all the money stored over here that's come from the Fed on these big yellow pots on the other side? What about all of them? Well, that money is money that they've borrowed from the Fed or from the banking system, or it's all of it. It's money that is right now is trapped in what's called a liquidity trap. It's money that's been institutional money that's been lent out. Well, that money is completely different. So what's happening here, if I understand it right, is the money that's on the side that's in savings is like different. It's money that's taxed 5% every year. It loses 5% of its value, which will be paid back into the banking system. If I'm figuring this out right, the other money, the money that people have borrowed and stuff, not people, the system, the money the big shots have borrowed, is going to make 5% on borrowed money. Am I figuring this right? So now, the way I see it is, there's a 10% difference between these two types of money. Between savings type of money that has not been borrowed and money that's been borrowed. There's a 10% difference there, 5% each way. And so, what's going to happen is the borrowed money, because it's making 5% per year, the borrowed money is going to increase. So the debt is going to have to exponentially increase. In other words, it's going to grow larger and larger and larger. This is some sort of it's almost like the Blob out of the movie, The Blob, you know. It's going to grow and it's going to keep growing. And at the same time, it's going to be receiving capital injections by the Federal Reserve, so make it all grow all the quicker. So on one side, if we look at this chart like a balance scale, what's going to happen is when they get zero interest rate policy, the way I see it, the scale's going to start tipping to the side of the gold and yellow color. And the black side, which is why I drew them purses and wallets black and bank accounts and everything else black, is because that's the mood of the whole thing. It's a very black, somber mood. And the reason why is because 5% of your money is going to start coming out. If they go for this, and this actually happens, I can't see it working. It's so upside down and so out of skew that I don't really see it functioning. Because it's never been done before, and I only see it as a move of an act of desperation to try to save a system that's collapsing. I can't see this actually functioning for very long in any meaningful way. The only thing it would do is it would help to enrich the already rich and make them more richer, because they're going to borrow a lot more, and because every dollar they borrow, they're going to be making 5% per year on it. It's the way I understand it. Negative interest rate. And all your savers out there, you're going to be losing 5% a year. So some interesting effects will start to happen with all of this. One of the effects I think that would happen, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, is people are going to decide not to keep their money in the bank because they're going to lose 5% per year. So they're going to want cash. And I think the bankers have been anticipating this coming, and they've made massive moves to try to get rid of cash, but they haven't succeeded. Cash is still very dominant within our society. So, if the people do decide to pull their money out in the form of cash, even if they do it slowly, even if the banks go into capital controls to try to stop them, still, when a man is standing in front of the counter in the bank and he says, I got $500 in that account, I want it, please. Well, the banker is going to be pretty hard for them to say, no, you can't have your money. Or at least part of your money today. Even if they have capital controls, they'll say, well, the limit is $100 a week. Say they put very stringent capital controls. And he'll come back every week until he gets it all. It's human nature. You get massive amounts of people doing this and wanting cash. Well, the way society has structured itself now at this point in time, they haven't needed to have a lot of cash because most people don't use cash anymore. So if you were to go back into the 1980s, there was probably a lot more cash within the banking system than there actually is now. Because people just simply don't use it. They use a debit card, or they use a credit card, or they use different forms of other alternative payment methods other than cash. And a lot of the modern wallets they create nowadays, if you go to buy a wallet, it doesn't even have a cash area to put your cash. It only has a credit card area. So, with not much need for cash out there, and if they lower interest rates down below zero and people start to remove their cash from the banking system, I can see soon the banking system having shortages of cash and having to actually print more cash. And that cash being pulled out of the system by just about everyone within the system, maybe in small amounts, but pool that together, it makes huge amounts of money, and hiding it under their mattress. This being one of the side effects of this, as a means to try to save themselves from what the system is actually doing to us. So I thought you guys would find this interesting. I see the money moving in these green arrows. I see it moving desperately quick out of the savers' hands, which is the middle class, and moving into the hands of the rich very rapidly with policies like this. At a certain point, these pots of money that the rich have are going to become golden. And at that point, they've swollen full. There's so much money in these pots, represented in the form of dollars, that a conundrum will come in to the rich that have these accounts. The conundrum is every time they add an extra zero to this money, that's this massive liquidity that's pooled in the system in their accounts, more money than they could possibly ever spend, that money is really only digits on a computer screen. What good does it actually do them unless they go out and actually spend it on something? Anything. But the end game of all of this is these massive bank accounts that will have grown, like I said earlier in the program, the Fed's injecting $75 billion a day into the system. After a while, that has to go into accounts. And plus, those accounts will lend that money out, and they'll be making interest on the people that have that money or borrowing that money. You're going to make interest off of it of 5% per year. The money pool is going to grow so large on one side of this arrangement. The money is going to grow so large, and the money is going to dwindle so bad on the other side, that we're going to see other strange effects, like the people that are in this money pool are going to be buying a lot of luxury items, which is going to drive the price of luxury goods up higher and higher and higher. And at the same time, you're going to see perhaps the other side creating deflationary pressures to a certain degree, because they can't buy anything, because they don't have the money and they're all tapped out. And there's another point I want to make too. That 5% interest you get for borrowing money under zero interest rate policy, I want to make this point out to you guys, because some of you guys out there are probably saying, well, I'll borrow a whole bunch of money. I'm going to make 5% per year on the money I borrow. I'll borrow $1 million and make 5% a year on $1 million, and I'll be fine. I'm sorry, it's not going to work that way for the average Joe. The average Joe is going to have to pay normal interest rates on every dollar that you borrow. So these banks and these institutions, and the money that they borrow, they make 5% plus, to the plus side. If you borrow money, you're going to have to pay probably 10% or 15%, or if it's from a credit card company, maybe 20%. So the whole system is set up unfair to begin with. So the wheels are coming off right now. They're going to try to stimulate an economic recovery by lowering interest rates down below zero. But again, the money is only going to go into the rich people's pockets. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, guys. And we'll catch you in the next show. Bye-bye.